I think we're in for a real treat. We have with us Dr. George Bailey. And for those of you who don't know Dr. Bailey, I'm going to talk a little bit about him and see if I can embarrass him just a bit. Dr. Bailey is not just nationally, but internationally known and famous for his expertise in periodontics, our hygiene students and some other folks out of hygiene, that's gum disease specialty, and implantology. And he's in the cutting edge really of advances like guided tissue regeneration, all these other things. Really is great. He's given over 800 presentations nationally and internationally, written publications, has an active practice still in Provo. He's a professor at the U of U Med School in their dental program at Creighton. He has privileges in Utah Valley Hospital and other hospitals. He's done numerous service projects throughout the world, written various publications. Is just, as they say, a man outstanding in his field. Personal note of thanks and recognition to Dr. Bailey. The first couple of years of this program, I know Mrs. Veit will agree with me, Dr. Bailey was instrumental in getting our hygiene program started here at UVU and keeping it going. If it wasn't for him and a couple of other folks, we just might not be here today. So we're lucky to have him here today, and I'm going to turn the floor over to Dr. George Bailey.
Whenever I have these things, I wish my mom was here so she could.
You did good, George.
In this case, George. So, delighted to be here. Somewhere in this process, I want to get the logo for this particular series. That's beautiful, isn't it? You got the intertwined hands here, and trying to figure out what to say. Didn't quite know what the audience might be, and I was fearful that I would glaze over too many eyes if I talked about the peptide sequence in the vessels leading to a deciduous tooth or something. And so I kind of struggled with this, but by the same token, wanted to provide something that would fill the overall tenets of what I think they're trying to accomplish here, and I laud them for that, and I wish them nothing but success of the science programs and what it really does for this world. So I'll be talking about those in three categories. I'll tell you what, if we get this down just a little bit, the lights. We got the light controller still here or something. There we go. Yeah, let's get that down so that we can see I still want to see the whites of the eyes and that sort of thing, but you can kill these. Yeah, there we go.
No, just a little.
Well, whatever. We can work with it. Three areas, if I may. Dentistry, the future. I'll be talking about some of the things that some of us in this audience will have in our lifetimes. Others, it may extend beyond this relative to what dentistry is doing and what it's all about. And the dentistry present. We'll talk about some things that so many of you already know, but it'll pull in science and how our dental profession, hygiene, that's part of the dentistry, has been driven by the scientific advances and changes that have occurred. And then a takeaway. Some of you could sit up here and say, yeah, I know that, sure. But something you can take away personally. So let's just proceed on that. Let's take a look first of all at dentistry future. And the future could be tomorrow, literally. And in looking at the technology and the research that we have, the buzzword that everybody hears is evidence-based dentistry, evidence-based nursing, evidence-based medicine, evidence-based, etc. There are three tenets of this topic of evidence-based whatever that make the health sciences distinctly different in the research and in the science than any of the other disciplines. One of those is, of course, scientific methodology. And we're not going to expand on that. Everybody understands that. Most get into it. All disciplines have it. The difference in healthcare is clinical applicability. In order to fall under this category of evidence-based whatever, which seemingly means that we are using the best tools, best techniques that we have, is that it has to be able to be applied clinically. Well, with that, we pull in our experience, our collective experience. In my hands, we hear that comment quite a bit, don't we? In my hands, I can do this and that, but I can't do this and that. It doesn't mean that it's wrong, but it basically means that we are taking the principles of science and we're applying them clinically, and based upon my experience, your experience, collective experience, here's what we have. And then the third thing, this makes it distinctly different healthcare profession in the science versus some of the other disciplines. The patient, it's their body. I know when I get the patient, they say, I know and I understand, and this is great that you're doing scientific method, and I appreciate you telling me all about the studies that have been done, and yes, your experience, I don't want it. They have that right. And so this makes all the research that goes into what we do in dentistry, in particular, just a little bit different than what we would do on the outside. And so we have science-driven and we have patient-driven. Let's see, is this that NCIS thing where they bring in the calf pow or whatever the name is? Thanks, Lord. Science, research-driven, and patient-driven. We understand that a bit, don't we? Okay. I competed in an athletic event here not too long ago, and they issued me the cutest little pink running shorts that you've ever seen. And I was proud to be a part of what that has become, the breast cancer research, eradicate, treat, etc. 10 years ago, my manhood would not have allowed me to run around with those cute little pink shorts. Now, because it's patient-driven, I've got a great pride in it. And that's largely what we have in dentistry also. So, in the future, let's talk about two different things. One will be generational. Can we generate in the mouth certain entities through bioengineering? Well, we have undifferentiated primordial cells, and I'm not going to go too much deeper than this. When I was in Imperial grad school and we'd screw up on the patient, the comment would be, well, let's wait for these primordial undifferentiated cells to kick in and make it right. Well, these are the cells that in certain situations, certain enzymes, certain environment, certain genetics can produce a lot of the things that we really need in the mouth. Now, we're all aware of stem cells. Okay, that's the umbrella that holds all of it. And there's some controversy. Should we take these embryo, which is part of that, should we take the cells out of the embryo and create this and that? In dentistry, the answer to that question, is still in the future. In dentistry, we may not need to do that. We can potentially get them from other sources, and that's adult. Okay, I'm adult, you're adult. I'm not talking about us being adults and our children and grandchildren being children. I'm talking about the adult fully formed tooth. That is, we can take certain cells out of that tooth or out of that environment, out of the bone that surrounds it, and make them do some things in a undifferentiated mode and acting like primordial cells and create or generate something in the mouth that we want. And so we have non-dental sources, embryonic, that we can get these cells from, and there's very, very active research going on this. And I think you would be amazed and like I was and am every time I get around it, to see what's happening. And we have dental sources. That is, we have the tooth itself. We have the environment around the tooth that we can use to whatever we want to do. Create a tooth. Well, let me tell you a story here. Okay, what's this fish called? I was consulting many years ago with a colleague, one of the best researchers in dentistry. And when we got through, she said, I want to share with you the experience I recently had. And she said, I have created, or her team, I'm sorry, I shouldn't use that word, her team had created a fully formed tooth. You know what that looks like. You know, it's got the enamel here, it's got the root that goes down in the bone and the gum, fully formed, in the gill pouches, and I can't for the life of me remember what it was. It was some cute little tropical fish, which one of the little ironies of life, has a genetic similarity to humans. Go figure. Okay, whatever. And so she had created that by taking certain little undifferentiated primordial cells, putting them in the gill pouch. This is a trout, and that's as close as I could come. And she had formed this tooth. One of the first times that had ever been done. Well, one of the popular magazines, Popular Science, Popular Mechanics, you know, that type, got a hold of this and published it. And as they're prone to do, a little bit of fact and a lot of, whoa, here we got this thing going for it. She received, and this was an era where email was just starting to come up in use. She received over 2,200 emails in 3 days, and the typical email, so she tells me, started off, Dear Doctor, my name is, and I am missing the upper right cuspid. Now, you know they've been around the block a little bit when they start talking like that, or if they say maxillary right cuspid, or you really know they've been around the block. I'm missing tooth number 6, okay? And I want it replaced. I will come to Ames, Iowa. That's where the researcher was at that particular time. I will come to Ames, Iowa, and stay as long as is necessary. I want you to grow me this tooth that has been reported in the popular whatever. Well, this tooth that this researcher had developed with 1 millimeter total height. So, you know what we've got going here. Okay. So we've got a 23 millimeter this, looking like that. Here is our, what she but it shows, if we use this patient-driven aspect, it shows the potential and what patients would really like and what they would embrace on any research. So to this, I throw it out and I say, okay, so what? Utah, okay? Let's bring it back home here. Let's take, and you know what? A good share of you, if not all, are basically going to recognize congenitally missing teeth. You open up a textbook and the research. As a matter of fact, I was on a plane coming back from this last week and had a little bit of time to do that. I love the internet on airplanes. Oh my gosh. And basically going through it, and the textbooks still say that it's 2 to a maximum of 7% of the dental population of the United States have congenitally missing teeth. Well, as I started practice down here in Provo, I was starting to see this in abundance. And those of you who've been around dentistry, you know that that is true. In abundance. So started forming a group of trying to determine what the potential percentage of the population was that had congenitally missing teeth. We're now up to 17%. Okay, textbook says 2 to 7. We're finding here in our local group, and we've got several groups nationwide and international that are working on this. So far, the only population group that has a higher incidence of congenitally missing teeth that we found, we'll find some other, was Peru. Okay, think of it. It's a genetically determined trait. And if we're going to use science to generate something, we've got a good population sitting right here in Utah County. Why is Peru higher? Currently at 22%. Okay, not a heck of a lot higher. Probably poverty. That is, they marry, they intermarry, they stay there, they don't move out of the country, they marry and intermarry the people down the street in the village, etc. What do we do in Utah County? This is a great place to live. Look at the sun out here. You can drive me away to many spots, but not October in Utah. And so we enjoy living here. We have a tendency to live here. We have children, they have children, they have children. You know, the bunny concept that gets thrown back at us just a little bit. But we have a homogeneous genetic pool, predisposition, high predisposition for congenitally missing teeth. Now, when I'm explaining this to a young person that is genetic, they're usually looking at the floor, wishing they had their thing here so they could be texting, you know, but they look up and they see mom in the corner, and I can see that look. It's, oh no, mom, you did this to me, you know, etc. And so my comment is, it's a genetic package, yes. You've got the good looks and the intelligence, but you got to take the whole package. And part of that is here. So, in that so what category, wouldn't it be nice to be able to regenerate a tooth? Not regenerate, but generate. It's never been there. Okay? So we have right here science-driven and even more so patient-driven, maybe double that. Very typical. And you know what we're looking at here? It's basically just reiterating what I've talked about. High incidence, very, very close to us in Utah County of congenitally missing teeth, a genetic trait. And so we look back at forming this tooth in the gill pouch of a cute little tropical fish, and we want to just stand up and urge them on. And you will in your lifetime see that ability. Many, many other researchers are working on this. How about regeneration, particularly caries? Okay. The usual way of treating this, of course, is to spin out the decay, put in a man-made substance or over the top, or etc. And we have great pride, as well we should in dentistry, that we're doing some great stuff, with this. And this, of course, is a young child whose mom forgot or didn't know that the Kool-Aid at bedtime to calm them down is not necessarily a good thing, and it melted away the teeth. What if we had something that we could just clean out the decay here, put that in, and start this regeneration? And so basically, it would be something similar to this. Got a big hole. And most of you are dentally oriented here. Got decay. We know how we fix it now. But what about just clean it out? Let me just go on to the next one here. Clean it out. Apply a primordial substance, and they have it. But there's a few bugs to work out. And basically, with that, regenerate the lost tooth structure. You will see that in your lifetime. They are so close to that. So close to that. So, bone loss, the one that grows too many people out, if that's an issue. Periodontal disease, one of the most destructive diseases in the mouth, and basically it goes after the bone. We call it a gum disease, but when the great destruction is in the bone. We currently have substances from science that we can apply to this and regenerate fairly well, the lost bone structure. A lot better than we could, still got a few steps to go, and it's not 100%. So in this evidence-based thing, we've got the science up here that has presented us with, something that we can put in there and regenerate some of the bone better than we could before, but the clinical experience just hasn't kept up with the science, or maybe it hasn't verified the science, but it will very quickly. Regeneration, gum tissue. Okay? We have a good way of doing this, as you can see. Very nice results, aesthetics and function, and etc. And we currently have a package of materials that is undergoing some evaluation, whereby we just open this up a little bit, put these primordial-like cells in here, and regenerate this. Not quite here yet, but it's very encouraging. You'll see that in the next 5 years as being kind of a routine part of treatment of gingival recession. So science is benefiting the patient big time. Microbiological, things we know about microbiology. There are over 600, they think. See, nobody's ever mapped it. One of the best researchers in the world on caries, of course, is Dr. Bella Christensen up here on Canyon Road. And she started off initially, and Kara can probably vouch for this, started off initially saying, I'm going to map the microbiology of the mouth. Never been done. She confided in me a few years ago, and she says, I'm not going to live long enough to do that. Because we have 600 species that potentially can populate it, and up to 200 of them at one time. Think of it. We put our fingers in the mouth, we chew our fingernails, you know, we kiss this, we share utensils, you know, with our little children on our, think of everything that goes through the mouth. So that shouldn't surprise anybody. But it's quite a daunting task. So why not develop a vaccine? Okay, when I walked out of Perio grad school a long time ago, no, dental school, long time ago, basically one of the instructors there who, yeah, he was kind of a turkey in some respect. Yeah, no, a lot of respect. And he said, well, I hope you all have enough caries out there to keep you busy because the vaccine is just around the corner. That was 40 years ago. Okay, it's still around the corner. And part of that is because of this issue up here, one, and then two, it probably should be specific to the bacteria that cause it. Flock shot, that is just wipe out all the bacteria in the mouth, well, we're going to create some big problems, aren't we? Some of it are peacekeeping, keep others down. And so this one, I don't think you will see in your lifetime. There's lots of active research going on to it. Unless they get it down here to species specific, which they have to go up here and map this, what Rella wanted to do, and she said, I'm not going to live long enough to do that, and the others have kind of echoed that, you know, from their own standpoint. I don't think that you will see that in your lifetime. All right, dentistry present. If somebody were to come up to me and say, basically, what is the thing in your practice lifetime that has most significantly changed dentistry, I wouldn't even blink. It would be the implant. So we've got technology. We've got titanium, put a few things in it, a little vanadium, a little aluminum to strengthen it, and found out that basically that, okay guys, to strengthen it, and basically found that the alveolar bone, the bone that surrounds the tooth, bonds to this in a very heavy chemical fusion. It's not the threads that hold it together. How did this develop? Well, this goes clear back to a physician. He was doing research in Sweden, and he was doing it on poor little bunnies, and he was trying to develop a certain type of bone graft. And so they would take the femur on this little bunny, and they'd open it up, and they'd put this titanium cylinder here to keep the bone from contacting the bone graft, so that they could see how much was really developed by the bone graft and how much was just the influence of the bone around it. And then they close it up, and then they sacrifice the poor little bunnies. Well, they were getting pretty frustrated because they couldn't take these little cylinders out of the femur of the poor little bunny. They were hammering, and the light went on. Aha, maybe we've got something here. This bone fusing to titanium, and that's how it developed. So, relative to this, here we are in Utah County. We've got tons of this. This is second best. The best will be the future, generating a tooth, and it will come. This is second best. This is so much better than what was done before. Basically, file this down, and put a bridge on it. Even technically very, very well done with great pride and rightly so. This is still a lot better. And the results that one can get are can be just astounding. So much so that the patient comes along and say, well, how's your implant doing? And you see them doing this. They're trying to find the implant because they don't know which one it really was, because it hasn't fit in so well. This, excuse me, this is science that basically has helped the patient. Implants effect upon dentistry, change our treatment planning, how to retain bone, growth and development, extraction. Basically, old dictum used to say, well, still says, it used to take 2 minutes to extract a tooth, now it takes 20. What are we doing? We're preserving the bone, not just pulling that dang tooth out, because of the potential of placing an implant. Orthodontics, we've got a situation like this. Not too many years ago, they would pull this forward, etc. This never did match up well here. It wasn't meant to be here. Better to put something down here called an implant. It changed everything that we looked at, bone physiology. I walked out of dental school. Yeah, bone was, it was there. It was around the tooth, Now, we've had to pull in the science on how does bone develop? How is alveolar bone different? What can we do to help in the healing? What's the anatomy of the dental products and materials changed big time? How do we match it up with the approved? Everything went on and on and on. So this has been around for a while. I don't want to spend any more time on this, but clear up here, I was wandering around a museum in Cairo and getting tired of desiccated mummies and whatnot. And I looked down here, and here was a mummy with an obvious implant, gold. The whole thing was gold. And it was still sitting there, and geez, I salivated over that, and my wife kind of, come on, we got lots of, no, this is the important thing. And so that was a pharaoh or pharaohette or whatever they call it, female pharaoh. And 1800s, can you see what's happening here? He developed one platinum, put some lead on the outside, roughen the surface so that the bone and the gum would stick to it. Well, good idea, but maybe not lead. And so basically, this is where things go. This is the first implant I placed. I made it. That's where the technology went. And now it's gone well beyond that. That's the second one. And a group of people that I respected said, do this, do that, make holes here, let's do this. Well, that's all science that came together for patient demand. That first patient basically said, I'm so tired of wearing a removable device down here. I can't handle it anymore. Okay, can't you do something? And so in my naivety, I just did this, did that, and it's still there. That puts the light bulb on and says, aha, science and technology. Well, we all know that we walk into the dental office, you walk into your hygiene school, those of you that are hygiene, and the power of the computer has really overwhelmed and benefited us tremendously as practitioners and has benefited the patient. And so the digital x-rays, what has it done for our patient, or what has it done for dentistry? Boom, they're up on the screen immediately. And basically the manufacturers say that it's 1/10 the irradiation. Well, that's not quite sure, but it's about 70% reduction in irradiation of patients. That's got to be good stuff, for the patients. And so we start getting charts like this, where the old series used to generate this, the new digital, it is clear down here like this. That's about a 70% reduction in irradiation. And you're well aware, most of you, of how we can manipulate those and find this, find that. Again, that's technology that has served us so well. Going on, we currently have, and this is part of the present, CAT scan, so-called cone beam type thing, that can generate for us three-dimensional models. And then we can use it for a variety of purposes for treating the patient, things that we have not had 10 years ago. Okay? So this is an incredibly rapid moving environment. We can do virtual things. Going to place some implants up here. Virtually, we can do this before we do it physically. And this will only get better and better and better That's the power of the internet. Digital impressions. Okay, the typical way of doing that, and it's still a good way. One gets a very, very good product out of it, is prepare the tooth for whatever, take an impression, and then send it to the laboratory, and etc. Currently, we have things where they will wand over the preparation, put it in an electronic form, send it to the laboratory, maybe digitally, the laboratory does it, or in the office itself. And it will mill out based upon the electronic signatures that have been done by simply wanding over this no impression material. And it's getting very, very, very accurate. Still a couple of things to work out. That you're going to see become a dominant part of dentistry within probably the next 2 to 5 years. Okay, very, very short. All right, let's talk about hygiene, education, and dental education. I'm very sensitive to this. Dr. Dyke basically indicated that heavily involved in setting up a new dental school at the University of Utah. We hammered on them. It's one of those 10-year overnight success things. It was 10 years to get that dang thing. And then all of a sudden, boom, and now we're off and running. And so we're basically taking a look at the educational program. And I toured the facility over here, the first time I've been able to tour that. Since you got this new facility, quite an improvement, oh my gosh. And so a good share of everything of the dental school and the hygiene school is computer-based, okay? Power, positive power, and remember this technology seminar, those intertwined hands. Let me just share a little experience with you. Had the good fortune to spend some time out in the Serengeti area of Kenya, and been out there several times. It's just beautiful environment, beautiful people, particularly the Maasai. The Maasai are one of the native tribes there, very, very small in number, and they're down the economic scale, they're down the ethnic scale, they're down the everybody scale. It seems like everybody puts their thumb on the Maasai because they can. And these are the people that are still out there with swords, literally, and sticks, keeping off lions. And I've seen them out there with lions approaching at night, and they will be down on the ground doing a number like this, challenging that lion. Come and get me, baby, you know, and so many words. But the lions have a tendency to back off. They live in dung houses. Okay, I'm kind of setting the environment for what I'm getting out here. Live in dung houses because they don't have a soil that will allow them to have a better environment. They literally, as you can see, don't have much wood. You know, we talk about being strict vegetarians. These are strict non-vegetarians. They have no vegetables at all that I've seen in the years that I've been out there. And so, teamed up with a group that unfortunately is kind of disbanded, developed a computer that was self-contained, and it had basically a little arm that would come up like this, internet connection, very nice, using Linux environment, proprietary software that you can get anywhere, and the way of recharging it by solar energy. And it was almost indestructible. You could throw it in a pond, you could step on it. I mean, it was really something. Got in a little bit of a cat and rat fight on, you know, why can't we charge for this? And it's kind of degenerating. But I saw some of the members of this tribe, very, very small little tribe. I think there were about 45 people there. And the amazement of these beautiful young people to the computer, very, very respectful one for another, and they would take turns, self-appointed turns of looking at this. And then we started getting somebody down from Nairobi to work with them a little bit, and just the amazement of taking the computer, taking what the computer offers, and absorbing it into heads that are basically probably Stone Age heads, if you really, you know, spears against lions type thing. and they would sit out there and they would group around the computer till the battery ran out. And then they would sit there a little bit longer, quite a bit longer, several hours, and they would sit same group until it came up again, and then they would get after it. And they would do this all the time. Well, developed a method for training them for maybe the modern world. And I got this email in January, and from one of the young girls of this Maasai tribe out in Serengeti of Kenya. Dear Professor has hired a doctor in most of the world, by the way. So, dear Professor Dr. Daly, I'm happy to say I am what you say, Nairobi. Yeah, I didn't quite understand that, so I called somebody that could help me. And basically, for the first time ever in the history of Kenya, 3 girls from this Maasai village out here, because of what they had learned exclusively off of the computer, have now been accepted into the lycée system, which is roughly equivalent to high school in Nairobi. That's the power of the computer. Okay, I throw this up because I've been around them so long, you've been around so long, it's just second nature, and we pull it down, etc. But the power is just absolutely incredible. Well, what about the power of the education, the question mark, down here? Basically, let me just go back. I think I've gone over it. Yeah, I don't have it. Basically, in looking at the new dental school, trying to figure out what this generation, that's you guys, the first one to grow up in a total electronic world. You're the first generation to do that. From day one, from your birth, you've had a computer environment. And so the power of the computer, what we're finding is how do we wean or how do we maximize that which this electronic world can do for us, and basically at the same time knowing that we're in a digital being fingers, digital technical environment, apply it to what we need to do in dentistry. Well, you know what I'm doing here. This is one of my grandsons. Try to take that picture on a 4-year-old, etc. But basically, think of it. How do we learn? Largely digital, comes in, stored here, experience, and then basically we apply it to what we're doing. So this is the most powerful tool that we have. How do we help these young dental students use the benefits of this electronic world, and they know and understand, you know and understand better than I, what can be done to do things with your fingers, and how do we get them in the environment? Yeah. I noticed that we got the wrong thing here, but basically what I was going to show was what I'm trying to develop with UVU. Basically, over about 30 years of teaching dental students at the University of Utah, I've found that they are brilliant. They are just absolute brilliant like you are students. But if I want to show them some of their frailties, I have them sit down with a patient that's squirming around a little bit, doing this and pulling the things that you've largely experienced yourself. The best way to do that is to take knowledgeable people. And so over the years, we've taken a variety of instructors and second-year hygiene students, and we've had them look over the back of the dental student. I can spend a whole semester showing electronically and videos, and better than I could with the chalk blackboard, for this. But I could spend years doing, or a semester doing that, or I can get the second-year hygiene students to come up and look over the back of the dental student who has never scaled a person and say, okay, this is the modified pen grasp. Here's where you put your finger. Here's how you do it. And in one afternoon, I can equal, and this is true, I can equal a full semester. Everything else I can do electronically. So we're in a world, where we have to blend the powers of what we have with the things that we will never probably get away from. That is what we see with the eyes, and nothing like a good skilled person looking over their back. Now, takeaway, oral hygiene. Let's talk about this. I was doing a call-in show, upstate New York, and the station manager was not too thrilled to have me there. Geez, we're going to talk about gums, and because he wanted something, he didn't say this, but I can see it. He wanted something that would get him on a national network, getting the heck out of this little town, I think. And but then he softened up significantly when he started seeing the phone lights come on, and there was a lot of interest, a lot of questions, and so a 20-minute thing became an hour and 40 minutes, and he got to the end of this and basically said, well, I will have to admit that I wasn't terribly thrilled with having a gum guy here, and that was his words, but I see the interest, and he says, no offense, but I never want to be a periodontal patient. And I said, no offense taken, what should I do? Very simple. Most of you know this. And I talked about oral hygiene, use fluoride in the brush and floss. The way I show you, use fluoride on a regular basis and have your teeth cleaned as I indicate on a professional basis. That's how you stay away from being a gum patient. Okay, oral hygiene. And again, largely preaching to the choir here, etc. Did a study, and this was done a long time ago. Actually, did it with Gordon there, and we went out and got a variety of people to use the facilities of the senior centers, and we had brushes, 2 banquet tables long, both sides. We had brushes, we just gathered them all over. And then we would have these great people who were just delighted to have somebody to talk to, among other things. And we would teach them how to brush and floss and so. And then trying to collate all of this together. What's the best brush? What's the best technique? Okay, oversimplifying it just a little bit. You know the final answer? What's the best brush? The one that's put in the mouth. Okay, not too far off of that, not too far off of it. I don't want to downgrade that too much, etc. But basically putting that in the mouth and then using it properly, and you're well aware of it. Let's go down. Where are we? There we go. This is out of my office up in Salt Lake. You're well aware of this program. Brush 2 minutes twice a day. Have you heard what the average brushing time is? 20 seconds. Okay, yeah, we're going to do nothing but oral health here, and etc. Let's see, I did that thing. Well, I'll get another 5 seconds here, and I'm done. Okay, but that was part of my response to him in an extended way. 2 minutes, twice a day. Do it in the fashion that I'm indicating to you. Okay, so we're getting a little more sophisticated. This is technology, and this is basically electronics wanding over, making a map of the mouth, and etc., and then making a device here, looks like a mouth guard. This goes on the top, this goes on the bottom. You put it inside, and you bite on it, and you got all these hundreds of thousands or whatever they are, little bristles going on. I love creativity. Okay, even if it's not going to be much. I just love creativity. They're talking about 6 seconds. Probably not, but that's kind of a setup. All right, floss, and I indicated to this station master, you have to floss. And you've seen this, in abundance, the importance of flossing. You do this, you do that, and you do it once a day. Okay, that was basically it. And his question was, like all patients, doctor, what toothpaste should I use? You ever seen this cartoon, Kathy? She wakes up, she's going to go out and get some toothpaste. So she walks down to Harmon's, and they've got 2 25-yard aisles on either side of the aisles filled full of toothpaste, and she's looking for the toothpaste. This is where the professional comes in. Okay? A lot of technology goes into toothpaste, but it's not one shoe fits all. There is no universal toothpaste, and that's what she run into. And the frustration of patients is, geez, let's go back to bed. So, fluoride. I indicated to the station master, we could fill this room full of printed material on fluoride. Okay? It's the most researched thing in dentistry. Study after study after study. And so, let's say that we do from here about halfway there, fill this room with positive, that portion is going to be negative. So what else is new in science? Okay, but overwhelming. And basically, a comment for you that will be professionals, use based upon need. Not what you have in the office, not what is cheapest, not what the guy out front is selling you. One shoe does not fit all. Why would you do something down here, a high level, for somebody that should be up here? But with the potential idea that everybody can benefit from fluoride. So that's taking technology and the research that we have, and taking our clinical experience, collecting clinical experience, and putting it into a whole. This is evidence-based hygiene. Okay, this is evidence-based hygiene. Professional cleanings, amen. Okay, you can't. Well, my husband never goes to the dentist. He never brushes and floss, and I just kind of sit back, and then in my mind I'm saying, it'll get him. It will get him. Okay? He cannot do for a lifetime what is necessary without professional cleanings. Our profession is missing that a bit in that regard. It's kind of gotten watered down to, well, okay, we can do a little prophy here. No. We need to do what you folks are learning. So, scientific method, just in summarizing, and then maybe just chat with you a little bit. One of the people that I've admired over the years is Carl Sagan, now deceased. He was an astrophysicist, and that's a world that I don't understand, and vectors this and universe that and all the other things. And he is the one that said, I want to take all of this beautiful science that we have, and I want to bring it back down so that the masses, you and I, can enjoy it. And he basically did that in a way whereby you and I kind of look up the moon now, and we say this and that about it that we did not know before, based upon what Carl Sagan, based upon what Carl, yes, I hear you. What Carl Sagan, that's my key that I'm ending here, and he was dying, and like so many people do when they feel immortality, they put the most important things in written form. And the most important thing for Carl Sagan was the scientific method. And he calls his book, The Demon-Daunting World, Science as a Candle in the Dark. That's exactly what science is. It is a candle in the dark. And we use it in dentistry, we use it in culinary arts, we use it in mathematics, etc. That's what basically keeps us from being back in the cage. And it has been beneficial. All right, so throwing out a bunch of stuff, have a few minutes. Questions, comments that I can throw up the lights if we're still got a light thrower here. There we go, thank you. Questions, comments, Chris, please.
What is the chance of having a vaccine against the strep mutans that goes with the UK?
Strep mutans, of course, still the dominant microbiota linked with caries, and it has been for centuries and centuries, well, not centuries, decades and decades and decades. And so, can we develop one? Yes. But disturbing the environment around strep mutans, they have not been able to do a species-specific, for strep mutans, even though they would like it. I don't think it's high. I just don't think it's high because there's too many things to consider. Please.
When with these things that are coming in the future, it seems like there's a lot of promise there, and people will want it. But what will they have to endure in terms of time to let those kind of regenerative processes heal?
A totally valid question. I mean, if you put these little primordial cells in here, what are we talking about? It's not going to be a Tuesday now, Thursday next type thing. A bit unknown. We can go off of what has been done on other non-human species, time-wise, and basically they are looking at about 9 months plus to do that. Will that fit into the human model? A little bit of an unknown.
So do people like envision like somehow covering that area, and then so you can go about your daily life otherwise?
Well, obviously they have to do that because we've got things to do. You know, we can't get for 6 months, while we're waiting for our little tooth to grow. And so that has to, and so that's where this evidence-based model really helps us. We've got the science, and then we've got the collecting experience, and then we've got the patient, like you're saying. And all three of those have to go together, with it. There are a few things that need to be discovered, rediscovered, and we won't know that until we get onto the human mind. Okay. What question, please?
We were talking about the congenitally missing teeth.
Right.
Does that include any teeth beyond the laterals?
Yes. Yeah, it does. It is dominant. It is dominant in the Caucasian population, maxillary lateral, and particularly in the Utah County area. But it's elsewhere. Okay. I'm going to tell you something very personal. I'm missing 3 molars, congenitally missing 3 wisdom teeth. Well, I want to take that gene and I want to inject that into a lot of people, whatever it is. And so guess what? My children, got 1 congenitally missing here, got 1 lower bicuspid, got 1 a lower molar. I'm a blown pattern. Okay. I'd love to take mine and make it 4 out of 4 rather than 3 out of 4. Okay. That's possibly more doable than regenerating or generating a tooth. It's basically to take the genes and channel them into producing an environment that is helpful for the patients. Okay. Other questions, please?
With tooth generation or regeneration, I guess another thing to look at is cost. Because implants in and of themselves are expensive, and I would think that would be kind of a stumbling block in getting them implemented as well.
Yes, yes, it will. And when you're talking about a human environment, cost has to be a portion of it. And science is not there for an exclusionary thing for only the Donald Trumps of the world. Nice guy, I'm sure. But you know what I'm saying. It has to be out there, and for those that have a need, somewhat irrespective of the financial. But that one always comes along a lot later. Yes, that would be appropriate. Other questions? Please, George?
I'm just wondering, I believe in the past some of the early comparative studies were done using dogs, beagles, that type of thing.
Right.
And lately I've been seeing in the veterinary world a strong push towards treating your dog's potential gum disease, that type of thing. And I was just wondering, does gum disease, in the canine world, progress and have similar characteristics in what it does and how it does it, and a time frame as it does in humans? Or are there any significant differences, or what are the similarities and differences if anyway?
As Dr. Abide is indicating, one of the models for periodontal problems has been the cute little beagle.
Yeah.
And I've done my share of research and whatnot, cuddling them and, it's, oh, geez. But they are as similar to any animal model that we have to humans on the periodontal disease aspect. The periodontal disease they get is similar, but not exactly the same as humans, but similar enough that they become the model. And totally extrapolating all research done on the beagle model to the humans really doesn't fly because there are quantity issues, there are quality issues that just don't do it. But it's a good starting spot. Chris, you had a comment?
I was concerned with congenitally missing teeth on the young children. Are the implants available to provide implants for the young children at an early age?
At an earlier age, the wisdom or lack thereof of dentistry says 18 and beyond. Somebody just picked that out of the air. It has no evidence-based whatever. And so it goes against what we're trying to do, pull in science and work with it, because there's no evidence base, but they talk about the formation of the head, neck structures, and et cetera, and maybe the person is old enough to be a participant, et cetera. The reality is we lose bone, we lose bone, we lose bone, we lose bone. Our experience has been, and we've published on it, et cetera, is putting in something that will stabilize it at a younger age, as young as 14. Stabilizes the bone, then wait before you put the crown on it. Okay. George?
I know it's another huge area, but are there one or two things you might be able to point to that are relatively new in the oral systemic connection to gum disease, connection to systemic diseases, and vice versa, that are relatively new discoveries?
Not so much new as expanding. Every time you turn around, we've got Alzheimer's and the connection with the oral diseases. We've got low birth rate, connection with oral diseases. Those things that are hammered in are diabetes. We don't even blink, anymore. And some of the bone disorders, the rheumatoid and osteoarthritis that hit into it. And of course the low birth rate. And so it's an expanding area. There's no doubt about what it exists, but it's the implementation that potentially poses the problem. Well, hey, we'll have to spend some more time, etc., but we've got another speaker here. I hope this symposium continues. I hope it expands. I hope the rest of the university kind of gets a little old cheat. You need to go see them. And so my pleasure. Thank you for the opportunity.